Welcome to all in my macroeconomics class. Today, we shall discuss about a very important part of the ISLM model, that is the general equilibrium, or this is also called the simultaneous equilibrium. Now, in my last two videos, we have discussed that the how product market equilibrium is achieved. That means we have derived the IS curve. How money market equilibrium is achieved, we have derived the LM curve. Now, how these both two curves work together and it will give a one equilibrium, that is the general equilibrium. You know, in reality, that the product market, money market, all the markets are working simultaneously. So last two lectures have seen that individually, that one product market equilibrium and individually, separately, one money market equilibrium, right? Now, we will combine these two markets and how when these two markets work together, then how an equilibrium will be achieved, which we call the general equilibrium. Okay. So sometimes that question may come that explain the general equilibrium under ISLM model, or how the equilibrium level of national income and rate of interest will be determined simultaneously in the ISLM model. So you see that the pattern of questions are different, but answer will be the same. I am just giving in each my every classes the how questions pattern will be different, but the answer will be the same. So it can come like that explain the general equilibrium. A simple straightforward question that explain the equilibrium for under product market and money market equilibrium or general equilibrium, or how equilibrium level of national income and rate of interest will be determined simultaneously in the ISLM model. So this way. So let's start with the general equilibrium concept under ISLM model. So general equilibrium under ISLM model. General equilibrium under ISLM model. Okay. Now, what is called the general equilibrium? General equilibrium means when the product market and money market, both the market equilibrium achieved simultaneously. I repeat once again. When the product market equilibrium and money market equilibrium is achieved simultaneously, both will occur at a time. Then that equilibrium is called the general equilibrium. So I'm writing here that general equilibrium means it means the money market and product market should remain. The money market and product market should remain in equilibrium. Simultaneously. Okay. So general equilibrium means it means the money market and product market should remain in equilibrium simultaneously. Now simultaneously, since we talk about the simultaneously, they will come in equilibrium simultaneously. That means that the aggregate demand should be equal to, therefore AP is equal to AS. Aggregate demand should be equal to the aggregate supply. This is the what required? Product market equilibrium required. Product market equilibrium AD equal to AS. Okay. So product market equilibrium AD equal to AS, and or we can see that investment equal to saving I equal to S. That we have already discussed in my last few videos. Many times I explained that either AD equal to AS or investment equal to savings. Through this we can explain the product market equilibrium. Okay. Now the investment depends on the rate of interest. So investment is a function of rate of interest. So you can write R, and the saving is a function of Y. Saving depends on the Y. Okay, saving depends on Y. So this we can write in the equation number 1. Equation 1. Okay. Now come to money market. This is because of product market. Now the money market. Money market, that what the requires equilibrium? Aggregate demand for money. Aggregate demand for money. That should be equal to aggregate supply. Aggregate demand for money, that should be equal to the aggregate supply of money. So money market, demand for money should be equal to the supply of money. Now what is the aggregate demand for money? In my last video, I told that the aggregate demand is the summation of the two. One is the total transaction demand for money, which is indicated by MP. Okay. If you are having that any doubt, you just look at the previous video where I detailed discussion was there, that how the transaction demand for, what is the transaction demand for money, what is the speculative demand for money, everything is discussed extensively. So you can go through my last lectures that if you are having any doubt. Okay. So MT and plus the speculative demand for money, which is indicated by L. Now the total transactions demand for money, that depends on Y. So MT is a function of Y, and the speculative demand for money, that depends on the rate of interest R, and aggregate supply of money. Now the supply of money, that is done by the central bank of a nation. And let's take an assumption that at a certain time period that the supply of money is given by the central bank. It is a fixed. So let's say that it is M0. This is a fixed. Okay. Supply of money is fixed. So this is the equation number 2. Equation number 2. So what do we see? That from these two equations, from both equation 1 and equation 2, that we can see that the two are unknown, R and Y. If we can find out the value of R and value of Y, then we can find out all the values. We can determine all the values: investment, savings, speculative demand for money, transaction demand for money. Everything can be determined. So that here in these two equations, so there how many unknowns are there? 2 unknowns. The two unknowns are R and Y. So if we can find out this R and Y, we can find out that everything basically. Okay. So let's see this one, how that means simultaneous equilibrium will be achieved once we understand, once we get the value of R and value of Y. Okay. So now we will explain this one graphically. Let's see the graphical explanations that graphically. So graphically, the graphical explanation. Say that here we are taking the national income along this axis and along the rate of interest. Okay. Now, what is our IS curve? That in the derivation of IS curve video, I told you that the IS curve is a downward sloping curve. So we have to draw a downward sloping curve. This is the IS curve. And the LM curve looks like this. So there are three actually, the range of LM, that this one is parallel to this axis, horizontal axis. Okay, this is called the Keynesian range. Then upward sloping, this is called the intermediate range, and then vertical. This is called the classical range. So basically that there are three range of LM curve, that this is called the Keynesian range. This upward sloping part is called the intermediate range, and this vertical portion is called the classical range. We will describe in my separate video that about these three ranges of the LM curve. Okay. Now that where the equilibrium will be achieved simultaneously, where the IS curve and LM curve intersect each other, this point. So we can call it that this is the equilibrium point. So let's say E is the equilibrium. So this equilibrium, we will call it the general equilibrium. Why it is called the general equilibrium, I will explain. So let's say the first, that if this equilibrium is achieved, let's say that rate of interest is RE. RE is the general equilibrium rate of interest, RE. Okay, and national income will be YE. So the rate of interest at general equilibrium, the rate of interest is RE, and the national income, when two markets simultaneously achieved in the equilibrium level, then the national income is YE. Okay. Now you see, suppose this one situation, suppose the rate of interest in the product market is R1. Let's say that this one, say R1. Suppose that the rate of interest in the product market. So suppose this is our, we assume that suppose in the product market, R is equal to R1. So if R1 is greater than RE, you can see that the rate of interest under product market is more than the general equilibrium rate of interest. Rate of interest at general equilibrium RE, and rate of interest at product market is R1. More. Now, if it is more, then in the product market, for product market equilibrium, that national income in the product market is Y1. So national income, so NI in product market is equal to Y1, OY1. So the rate of interest, so in the product market equilibrium, what we require, so we know that any point on the IS curve that represent the product market equilibrium. So if we consider this point, A point, let's say that where R1 and Y1, this indicates the product market in equilibrium. This combination of rate of interest and income that explain the product market in equilibrium. But this rate of interest is more than the equilibrium level of rate of interest, general equilibrium level of rate of interest. Okay, and national income is less than the general equilibrium level of that national income. Less. Now, that when the rate of interest is R1 in the product market, then for money market equilibrium, then what will be the rate of interest in the money market? The money market, the rate of interest should be, is touching this line here. So rate of interest for the money market should be R2. Rate of interest for the money market equilibrium should be R2. Okay. So if it is R2, so for money market, to maintain the product market equilibrium, combination is R1Y1. So to maintain the product market equilibrium, What is the combination of R and Y? The combination of R and Y is that R1 Y1. Okay, because any point on the IS curve that represent the product market in equilibrium. Yeah. Now for money market equilibrium, to maintain the money market equilibrium, what is the combination? That R2 and Y1. Because any point, look at this one, this at B point is on the LM curve. So any point is on the LM curve that represent the money market equilibrium. So you see this one, that for product market equilibrium combination is R1 Y1. For money market equilibrium combination required the R2 Y1. So here what happens, that we see that next is that how it will come to the equilibrium level, how it will come to the general equilibrium rate of interest and national income. Now when you can see that in this case, that for maintaining, so to maintain the general equilibrium, what we require, just see that here, so what we get from here, at particular Y, there are two different rate of interest. At particular Y, two different rate of interest. So for Y equal to Y1, that product market equilibrium rate of interest is R1, and for Y equal to Y1, money market rate of interest is R2, different rate of interest. And this R1, you can see that greater than RE, and this R2 is less than RE. This is the situation is coming. So to get the general equilibrium, what we require? What we require? The rate of interest should fall in the product market because R1 is greater than RE. Or what is required? The rate of interest that should increase in the money market to get or to reach to the RE level. Okay. So that rate of interest should fall in the product market and rate of interest should increase in the money market. So to get or to reach RE, that R should fall in product market and R should rise in money market. Okay. Here. Now, if R falls, then what will happen? If R decreases in product market, if R decreases, if rate of interest fall, then the investment will increase because there is an inverse relationship between the investment and rate of interest that I have already described. Okay, so investment I increases. If R decreases, then I increases. Now, if I increases, I is the demand component. So aggregate demand increases, that implies a D increases. Okay. Now, to maintain the product market equilibrium, aggregate supply should increase, AS, or savings should increase. So to maintain the product market equilibrium, that should increase, savings should increase, or aggregate supply should increase. Now aggregate supply increase, supply will increase. Now supply that depends on the income. Supply depends on income. So S will increase. How S will increase? Therefore Y should increase. Why? Since saving is a function of Y. That if Y will increase, then the savings will increase. Okay. So Y should increase. So Y will increase. Now, if Y will increase, then what will happen? Let's see that it is one is creating the impact on other because both the markets are operating simultaneously. So if Y will increase, then this will create an impact in the money market. This will create an impact in the money market. So if Y will increase, then what would happen? That in case of the Y increases, then our speculative demand for money as supply side increases, then to keep the our so what is it that Y as Y increases, so that in the money market, in money market, in money market, transaction demand for money that increases. Okay, because MT depends on Y. So here Y increases, transaction demand for money increases. Now, to maintain the money market in equilibrium, that if MT increases, because the supply of money is constant, our equation was that what? MP, which is a function of Y, plus LR, this is equal to M0. Now this part increases and this part is constant. So this part should fall, reduce. This part is nothing but the speculative demand for money. So in money market, MT increases. So to maintain money market equilibrium, that speculative demand that should decrease. Okay. Now, how the speculative demand will fall? If the rate of interest will increase, because there is an inverse relationship between the rate of interest and the speculative demand for money. So this one should fall, and this is possible. This is possible if R increases. So what will happen in this process? So what happens that if rate of interest decreases in the product market, then automatically this will create an impact. The rate of interest will increase in the money market. Okay. So, and this process will continue. This process will continue till it reaches the equilibrium point E. And so that this E, that's why this E is called the general equilibrium. General equilibrium. Now, which actually maintains both the money market and product market equilibrium simultaneously at a fixed rate of interest and national income. So this is the one part of the discussion of the general equilibrium. Now we have the another part of the discussions of this one, that how that expansionary fiscal policy and monetary policy is having the impact on the ISLN curve. So let's start with that another part of discussion, that expansionary fiscal policy and the expansionary and contractionary fiscal policy, expansionary and contractionary monetary policy. So first we should have the knowledge about that what is called the expansionary and contractionary fiscal and monetary policy. Okay, so let's see this. So first we see that. So let's start with this one. This discussion like this: the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy. Now, fiscal policy. There are two types. One is the expansionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy. Let's say FP means fiscal policy, and the contractionary fiscal policy. Contractionary fiscal policy. Okay. Now, what do you mean by expansionary fiscal policy? What is the meaning? Expansion. Expansion. That means when the growth of the economy is expanding, the policy which will be taken by the government. Fiscal policy means the policy related to the government income and expenditure. In a simple term, I'm telling you that fiscal policy is initiated or taken by the government and policy related to the income and expenditure of the government. Now, if the government takes a policy in such a way so that that creates an impact of the more employment generation, more production of the goods and services, growth of the economy takes place, then that kind of policy is called the expansionary fiscal policy. Then what is the contractionary fiscal policy? For example, that expansionary fiscal policy, that suppose government expenditure increases. Government spends more money for the constructions of the national highway, dams, okay, infrastructural development, lot of money government is spending. So for that, what will happen? That lot of employment opportunity will be created. Lot of there required that more bricks, stones, cement. Okay, a lot of things are required. So the demand for those things will also increase. Employment opportunity on those sectors also created. So in that way, the overall growth of the economy that will appear. So the government expenditure, it is a kind of the expansionary fiscal policy. Another example of the expansionary fiscal policy is if the government reduces the tax rate. Government is reducing the tax rate. If the government reduces the tax rate, then what will happen? Now that the producers of the farms, they will be interested to produce more and more. Okay, so if they want to produce more and more, the investment will increase, more production takes place, more employment opportunity will be created. So more money will come. Okay, that in the people's hand, demand will increase, further production will increase. So as a result, the overall growth will come to the economy. So tax rate reduction, that is a part of the expansionary fiscal policy. Now, in opposite of the expansionary fiscal policy, there is a contractionary fiscal policy. What is the contractionary fiscal policy? Contraction is just opposite. The government will take a policy in such a way so that the growth of the economy, employment opportunity or unemployment level, that will not increase. Growth falls, unemployment level increases. For example, just opposite, government expenditure reduces, tax rate increases. So just opposite thing will happen. If the more tax rate is imposed, then the producer will be least interested to produce goods and services, less employment opportunity will be created. So these are called the contractionary fiscal policy. So expansionary fiscal policy is the government expenditure. Government expenditure increases, tax rate decreases. Contractionary, just opposite of this one, government expenditure decreases, tax rate increases. These are all coming under contractionary fiscal policy. Now, with the same logic, that the way that I discuss the fiscal policy, the monetary policy is also the monetary policy, that expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. Okay. Now, expansionary monetary policy is initiated or taken by the central bank of a nation. Okay, changing the rate of interest, that is actually initiated by the central bank of any nation. Now, expansionary monetary policy, the central bank will take a policy in such a way so that if the growth takes place, growth of the economy takes place, more investment is done inside the economy, then that kind of policy will be called the expansionary increasing. Now, how? That if the rate of interest, okay, rate of interest falls or reduces by the central bank. So rate of interest reduces, cut, okay, or say money supply, central bank is increasing the money supply. money supply increases. So these are all coming under the expansionary monetary policy. So contractionary is just opposite of the expansionary. That it would be like this. Here rate of interest decreases, and here the rate of interest increases. Okay, and money supply decreases. So that is called the contractionary monetary policy. So this is the expansionary fiscal policy, contractionary fiscal policy, and this one is the expansionary monetary policy and the contractionary monetary policy. I hope this concept is clear to you, because with this concept, we will apply this expansionary, contractionary fiscal policy, monetary policy, okay, and how the IS and LM curve is going to change, create an impact, that we will describe in my next video. So if you are having any doubts, that you can write in the comment box. I will try to clarify your doubts. So thank you for watching this video.